Hey everybody, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop, and today I'm doing a preview for the Stormland Rituals, an upcoming puzzle narrative game from Post Curious. And as always, I take no money from publishers. I just do these previews to show the game and help you make an informed decision. And if you like the content on the One Stop Co-op Shop, consider supporting us through Patreon. You get early access to our videos and exclusive videos every month you can't see anywhere else. You can also listen to our weekly podcast for reviews and design discussions, or join the conversation and say hi on our Discord. So they did send me what seems to be a final or nearly final version of this book narrative puzzle game, and it is ridiculously beautiful. Just to kind of skim through for a moment, just look at these amazing illustrations and everything. Now, lately with the Post Curious games, my wife has become a huge fan of them. We did all of the Light in the Mist together, which I believe Jack Fallows was one of the writers and designers of, along with Rita with Post Curious. So very excited to dive into one of his works again. But then my wife also played Emerald Echoes with me, and we adored that. So I'm going to do something I don't usually do for these Post Curious previews. Usually I tear through the entire game on my own, and that way I can do kind of a full review for the game. But this time I do want to play through it with my wife and enjoy it with her. So I'm just going to play through the first chapter of the game, not very long at all, just the first 5 or 6 pages. Reading and figuring out the puzzles on camera. Feel free to skip all that if you don't want any spoilers of anything. But if you want to get a little taste of what the game is like and see the simplest, most basic starting puzzles, then go ahead and watch. Or you can just skip to the end and I'll give some thoughts averting any spoilers at that point. And there's going to be some narrative reading at the beginning before we get into any of the riddles, so you can watch that too if you just want to hear me do my narration thing. And yeah, you play this right in the book. They do have spots for actually writing in the book. I know that's monstrous to some of you, so I'm going to be using a pencil. That way I can erase it when I start with my wife. But so far, all the puzzles I've kind of skimmed through in Chapter 1 look like you could pretty easily do them on a separate sheet of paper instead with just a little bit of extra work, if writing in a book is completely anathema to you. And as far as I understand, we're going to read some stuff. When we get to the end of a chapter, we're going to have a storm lamp, and then we have to write down a single word. That's kind of like the answer to all the riddles for that chapter. Some of the puzzles will have a little satchel icon, which will tell us to go to the back where they have this satchel with different things in it. And then at the end of each chapter, there's a hint section that's in red, and you can use this to slowly give yourself hints. So this game does not use, as far as I can tell, one of my favorite things about Post Curious, which is their awesome online hint system, but I'm sure some of you will love that everything is contained within the book. There's a little bit like Cantaloupe that I covered recently, that you can just bring this along with you, and you got everything you need, even without an internet connection. But I'm going to read the prologue and then go through and solve all of Chapter 1. There's a lot of reading in this. This is, as you can see, basically a novel. So if you don't want to hear any of that, I don't know why you're here. So here we go. Prologue. The valley of Gallowfell was never the same after the raids began. On the night that a mass of hooded figures descended on horseback into the streets of Gora village, Anna was too young to understand how completely her life would be altered. She remembers little of that evening now besides snapshots. The screams pouring in from outside, the pounding of approaching hooves, the sight of their back door clattering on its hinges as she and her father burst through it, the tight grip he kept on her hand as they thrashed through the tall grass to the path that would lead them into the mountains. She remembers the relief of finally reaching their cottage hideaway, unaware that the long years that followed would bring a vast darkness down upon the valley below, consuming the world she once knew. She never saw the Ropehook mine collapse, the Swan schoolhouse being razed to the ground, or the food bank at Bell Hill being looted. She never tasted the poisoned water of the Johnstown well, or heard parents sobbing at night, unable to feed and clothe their children. She wasn't there when the empty homes of her neighbors were sold off to strangers for a pittance, or when the huddled bodies of the Redcrest family were found in the snow on the roadside after they were driven out of town. She never got to witness young Anders Bush lead his weeks-long resistance effort, drawing out and trapping dozens of riders in the dense woodland, or his eventual capture and return to town, where he became an example to all dissenters in a grotesque spectacle of cruelty. Most mercifully of all, she never had to watch the Coven house she once called home being gutted, her childhood belongings being trashed, family heirlooms being desecrated, and books holding decades of sacred wisdom being turned to ash in a raging pyre of hate. None of her coven were there to bear witness, as the mark of the sisterhood above the front door, which had invited in so many lost and vulnerable people, was painted over with the emblem of Siboney. In fact, all Anna ever really knew of the Sibonites was the isolation forced upon her by their arrival. That is, until early this morning. Almost 6 years to the day since their escape, the girl could no longer contain her listless frustration, and did what her father had strictly forbidden her to do. She entered the underground food store and began exploring its contents. Whatever secrets she imagined her father had hidden from her down there could not have prepared her for the truth. Behind some loose stones in the wall, she discovered a wooden crate, and inside it, 2 books, her mother's old grimoire, and a journal written in her father's hand. The words he had penned were enough to shatter her heart, and along with it, any illusion that she should continue to remain under the same roof as him. Here we go, a lovely illustration of the coven doing some kind of dance. Chapter 1, The Woods. March, 1901, Black River Falls. We spoke in tongues, out in the thick of trees, made scrawny from the cold, and built a burning and a towering inferno of their bones. But now the light of ashen dawn, it summons life to swaddle, branches once again, the ring is drawn, cast off the cold, and enter in. Anna closes her eyes and breathes deep. She sets down her satchel and crouches in front of the icy stream to take a drink. For 2 days and nights, she has been marching away from the cottage southeast through the forest, her cheeks wet with tears and her mind twisting in distress. She cannot bear the thought of what her father has kept from her, or how much of his betrayal she has allowed herself to endure. She must escape, however fraught the journey ahead may be. She keeps her mother's grimoire close for comfort, with one eye over her shoulder for signs of being followed. Thus far she appears to be alone with the birds and insects, a feeling that is as liberating as it is strange and uncomfortable. She reaches for the grimoire again and flicks through the pages to find the entry she has been using for directions. She hopes to reach the Oracle Selinja and seek her guidance. It is painful to feel her mother's presence in the writing without being able to speak to her directly. However, she knows all answers lie in these passages, diagrams, notes, and scrawlings. The girl slumps against a nearby tree, draws her knees up to her chest, and pores over the contents of the book.
Take the southeast path from the cottage, past Lambton Mount to the north, and Lake Barra to the south. Follow the trail around 20 miles until you reach the creek. Cross the water and find the rough trail through dense trees. In another 5 miles or so, you will reach the clearing where Selinja's standing stone can be found.
Okay, and here we've got our first riddle of sorts. Looks like it's a little alphabet we got to figure out. So they've given us the rune for A, E, F, and L. And I got to try to figure out these other ones. And yes, I'm going to write in the book. Horrors of horror, I know. Okay, so here we've already conceived this is L-E, so this must be leaf. Oh, and A. And S. So literally, okay, that's just to verify that we're doing things correctly. So this is probably stem. This is probably what? Bud. And probably flower. Okay, so that does start with an F, so I can pretty much guarantee, yep, an L. So that means that must be O. So let's, oh, geez. That is not going to write it all in there. Wow, that is... Okay, I might need to get a pen. Oh, man. Well, never mind. I guess we are going to use paper. Because at least that one was not very easy to write with. Okay, so that's O. W is, geez, you're going to see Mike write runes. This is exciting. Okay, and that's R. All right, let me do the rest off camera. All right, I'm not 100% sure that that was actually D. You know, it kind of makes sense to do this on a paper, because look, oh, you can't see it yet. The next page, I need to translate a stone anyway. But let's read a bit first. She appears to be much closer to her goal than she realized. Energized by this discovery, she gathers her things and presses on through the forest's many tangles and thickets, while the sun still hangs in the sky. Then, just as the light of day begins to fade, she sees it, a standing stone casting a long shadow over the clearing. Anna sweeps away the moss and reads the message on the stone. All right, easy enough for her to do. Okay, let me see what I got. Okay, so this is what I got. I left the symbols in. So that's got to be choose. That's an H. Right. Bird. Okay, so that's an I. And, so that must be a N. Follow. Okay, that was the whole word. And follow on, if that's an N. It's. Choose the right bird and follow on its... something. Oh, wait, that's an N. I don't know what that letter is. Follow on its journey. Yeah, because Y wouldn't have been using any of those. And J is also a pretty rare letter. So choose the right bird and follow on its journey. Ooh, and the J is red. So maybe I'm looking for like a blue jay. Okay. There we go. As the words pass her lips, one of the letters gives off a faint glow. If the notes in the grimoire are correct, in speaking these words, she has just opened a gateway through the wall of trees in front of her to the Twice lore, another world beyond the one she knows. The cabin home of the Oracle Celinja should await her just beyond the portal. Every nerve ending fires as her body prepares to exit the only world she's ever known and enter into a strange new dimension. She checks over her shoulder again. Whatever waits on the other side cannot be worse than what she leaves behind. Following the steps laid out for her, she binds a black ribbon around her wrist, picks up her storm lamp, and holding her breath, begins pushing through the gnarled branches. The girl pierces the dark veil into a wide clearing, where the air immediately smells more fragrant and feels thicker in her lungs. Before she can take in the grand cabin that overlooks the open field, her attention is drawn to a tall tree standing on its own in the center of the grass. The peripheries of its branches seem to flare out in a hazy aura, and it pulsates with color and sound, attracting every bird and insect under the sun. Stepping towards it, the girl notices herself swaying and her movements slowing, but the sensation isn't an unpleasant one. She was reminded of wading in the warm water of a shoulder-deep river in the summertime, careless and weightless. Okay, we got a tree. We got birds. What was it? Choose the right bird and follow on its journey. Oh, and we got a J. Okay. So I guess we got to oh, Lord. We'll try to do this on camera. Follow its path. Follow what? Where do I? Does it pick up back here? Oh, and then it's got a split. Hold on. Let me look at this again. Oh, okay. There was another way to go. I think every time that it goes off to a dead end, it splits. Yeah. So there's a split. There's a split. There's a split. Animal. And nothing. Okay, so animal. I don't know what I need that for yet, and I got that icon too. Getting closer, Anna sees that there is a note pinned to the trunk of the tree. She takes it down to study for a moment when a brown speckled moth lands on the paper. The girl is startled but barely flinches, and her dilute reaction tells her she is not acclimated to her surroundings. Even her thoughts now seem to move as though sinking in honey. She trains what focus she can summon onto the page in her hand and tries to make sense of it. But as the moth begins twisting its antenna, the girl's vision burrows in on its slight movements, and her surroundings seem to vanish into a pale silence. Okay, so we got animal from that. Here, many names for many things that live within the kingdom. Okay, so it looks like I got to do the words going horizontally, and that'll give me a word vertically. And this one I probably could write on the page, but I mean, at this point, I'm already doing this stuff on paper. Might as well save it for my wife. Okay, so wool waster and wardrobe dweller. Well, the clue is in the creature itself, isn't it? So that's a moth. Sky circler and corpse picker, vulture, right? With that many letters. VULTURE. That's my main. So ovary, hive dancer, and honeymaker. B and E is the one that's going the way I want. Pad hopper and swamp dweller. Frog, right? Or toad. Let's hold off on that. Pad hopper. I mean, that's got to be toads, right? I mean, frogs, right? Toads don't hop on pads. Okay, I'll just put toad. Or sorry, frog. Yeah. I'm switching back and forth. Over something. Head spinner and night hunter. Oh, that'd be owl. So the L, overly something. Bloodsucker and sight singer. Oh, bats with echolocation. Bloodsucker, well, I guess vampire bats. It's not like all of them suck blood, right? Or do they? I don't think so. Some of them eat fruit. Overland. Stench seeker. Fly. Stench seeker and buzz maker. Overlay. Okay. In a sharp flutter of movement, the moth takes off, leaving a trail of impressions behind like a ghostly fingerprint in the air. The girl's trance is broken. Suddenly she feels split in two, like she can hear something different in each ear, see something different in each eye, a single path ahead going in two separate directions. She stumbles forward, uncertain but determined, toward the dark smudge she thinks is the cabin, but it's no use. The horizon starts to tilt and the girl collapses in the tall grass. Even in the shadow of unconsciousness, her mind fights to block out the noise and hear only the truth of her situation. So overlay, animal, and I mean this, what I'm not sure about yet is do these connect? Because that one I needed to be able to decipher that. I needed the red J to know to follow the J's path. I don't know what I needed the animal for yet, and I don't know what I need the word overlay for yet. Oh, except, never mind. Probably there's going to be, yep, I have the journal stuff over here. There's an overlay. Okay, so let's see if that'll show up on camera. That looks about right, doesn't it? Okay, let's try to get a zoom of this. Anna finds the woman, so to speak, something, what? In the cabin. Okay, I guess those are extra things. In the woods at night. Okay, Anna finds the woman. I'm just going to read the kind of dark black stuff first. Anna finds the woman in the cabin in the woods. The woman means to cast a spell and asks the girl to find her. The fingers of she who weeps and who withers. The bitter bright dust of her long dried out tears. The sound of her voice as it rings through the branches. The clothes of a friend she once reached out to dearly. Forgive her. Dude, I don't know how to read this. I will say it seems like the kind of brownish ones. There's like red, dark, black, and brown on the overlay. Yeah, this kind of forms its own story without the overlay. Anna finds something in the woods with which to cast a spell and asks nature to find her, the fingers of God who watches, who withers, the bitter bright dust of his long dried out oceans, the sound of death as it rings in his ears, the clothes of a friend she once begged to forgive her. You know what? Let's go to the hint system. We'll just see how it works. Because I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing something here. That's the thing that's a little bit tough with this one, it seems. Like, I'm not sure what puzzles are. Because on the next page, we've got that stuff. And then we've got the end of the chapter where we're supposed to actually have a word to give here. But if we go past that, we get into the riddles. And, oh man, I don't think this is going to get picked up at all on camera. Wow, it's even hard for me to read it. Okay, let me try here. Okay, so I looked through. They have like 1 to 2 hints for each page. So this one, just to kind of explain what the logic of the game is, because I think it's important to kind of know for those who are interested in going through this thing. The logic was that me knowing it was animal told me what kind of things to fill in these rows with. And if I didn't know they were animals, I would have put what? Gods? Humans? Plants? Wool waster and wardrobe dweller? God? Yeah, so I don't know. That seems like a tenuous thread. But it does seem like the intention is that once you like figure out what the solution is on one page, you just go to the next one, and maybe not all of them will actually be necessary in each case. Kind of the same thing here. So this said overlay, so I would know to overlay it. What else would I have done with it except for overlaying it? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. This seems a little silly. And then this, the riddle was that I had to read the black letters, which would tell me that I was meaning a witch than one of these components. I already knew that, man. That's what I did the first time. So I was supposed to ignore. So first of all, it was a riddle to put the overlay over it, and then it was a riddle to not read the distracting red or original brown things. I mean, whatever. Okay, so she's telling me to find some stuff. Let's move on. When Anna comes to, she finds herself lying on a bed in a small wooden-clad room with a pot of tea gently steaming on the table beside her. She squints toward the light pouring in through the window and sees the silhouette of the tall tree where the note was pinned. Then the door clicks open and a woman in long robes and a matching turban enters the room. Anna has no doubt she is now face to face with Salinja, one of 4 ageless beings known as the Oracles, masters of powerful magic and protectors of ancient wisdom. She carries a metal tray covered in objects and places it on the bed in front of Anna with a smile.
Welcome, child. My name is Salinja. You're doing very well. Here, drink some tea. It will help with the nausea. Don't worry, it's always disorienting the first time you pass into the twice lore.
The oracle pours a cup and Anna raises it to her lips. She is immediately soothed by its warmth and sweetness.
Just one more task, then you and I can talk. When you are ready, choose 4 of these objects and join me in the next room.
The oracle exits the room again and Anna looks down at the objects on the tray. Okay, this is good. So far, only like the animal and overlay were kind of weird, because this is clearly going to help me pick this. So what did she say she wanted for the spell? Okay, she means to cast a spell. She asks the girl to find her. The fingers of she who weeps and who withers. The fingers of she who weeps and who withers. Fingers of she who weeps and who withers. Could that be bones? The fingers of she who weeps and who withers. Okay, maybe. The bitter bright dust of her long dried out tears. The bitter bright dust of her long dried out tears. Oh, salty tears. Duh. Okay, so bones, salt, probably. The sound of her voice as it rings through the branches. The sound of her voice as it rings through the branches. Bell? It's going to be the closest we can get to that. And the clothes of a friend she once reached out to dearly. Clothes. The clothes of a friend. The clothes of a friend. I don't know. I mean, feathers are used in clothes? Maybe? The clothes of a friend. Am I missing something obvious? The clothes of a friend. I mean, it has to be feathers, I guess, right? That's what we got. We got bone, 7-3. Salt, 4-6. What was next? The bell, 5-5. And the feather, 8-1. I'm assuming this will be used on the next page. With her chosen objects in hand, Anna steps out of the bedroom and into the main living area to consult with the oracle. After listening to the girl's story over a second pot of tea, Cylinder takes the objects outside and sets up a ring of candles in a dusty clearing to prepare a ritual. The tall tree that greeted her when she crossed over towers nearby as Anna slumps onto a stone to steady herself against her persisting dizziness. She watches the oracle as she draws a square in the soil and places one of the objects in each corner. She then takes a map and places it face down in the center, holding it in place with 2 coins. Ooh. So these are coordinate words. So let's try this out. 7-3. Well, shoot. Which one do I go to first? The highest I go is 8, which could be either. Nightshade went to 2-9 and Beetle went to 4-10, which makes it sound like it's. Oh, is that the way that I haven't done geometry and stuff in so long? I think it is X and then Y, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Good job, Mike. So 7-3 side. I'm already doubting that I got the right objects. 4-6 A. This is looking less and less right. 5-5 tree. Okay, and 8-1 falls. What? Side a tree falls. Side a tree falls. That can't be right. I mean, a tree falls sounds pretty good. What was the fingers of she who weeps and who withers? The fingers of she who weeps. Weeping willow. Stupid. Okay. So fingers, metaphorical fingers. Okay, so not side. 1-6. All right, let's see if any of the other ones. 1-6. If a tree falls and no one is there to hear it, do we make a sound? Is that really what it is? I don't know. Let's read the next page and see if that leads to something. Cylinder speaks, but not to Anna, and her words appear on the page. When she is done, they disappear again. She extinguishes the candles, makes more markings on the back of the map in pen, then dusts the front in a pale substance and blows it away. She places the map and coins before Anna.
Like your mother and her mother before that, you must find your way to the Black School, child. The Sisterhood is ready to accept you as a new student, if you are ready to brave the journey.
Anna lets out a small gasp, but attempts to remain composed. She remembers her mother's stories of the Black School well, but feels underqualified to follow in her footsteps.
Tomorrow you must continue through the Twice Lore alone. Find the river. Find the boatman. Take these objects with you for guidance and protection.
Bowing to the girl, Cylinder returns to the cabin, leaving Anna with the objects, the map, the coins, and yet more unanswered questions. She sits listlessly for hours until night casts the shadow of the tall tree over her. The lunar glow is intense and sickly, encircling the moon like a halo as it hangs in the sky. The tree seems somehow frail and defeated in this light. Anna listens for the sounds of life she heard before, but instead hears near silence, except for a faint moaning by the tree. She staggers toward the sound, but the moaning quickly fades and life seems to return wherever her lamplight shines, as though being thawed from the darkness. She sits with her back against the tree trunk, pulls her mother's grimoire out of her satchel, and for the first time is moved to write something in the blank pages left for her in the back. A protection spell. Something she can add to as her journey continues, gathering power from her experiences, should she ever need to release it. She pulls out a pen and begins the incantation with a simple opening line. Simple opening. I feel better. I feel better about my answer because they had said, that's right, they had said in the instructions. Let me go back to it. Yeah, they'd said in the instructions that you don't need to use any other chapter's answers until the very last puzzle, so like all of this will go together. And the length of the line should help confirm your answer. So if a tree falls, and it seems kind of nonsensical, but if it's the beginning of a spell of protection, that seems pretty cool. Okay, cool. I'm not going to write it yet. I'll save that for my wife. But if a tree falls and Mike doesn't figure out what the new answer is going to be. Never mind. All right, cool. So I'm going to go to my non-spoilery thoughts on stuff, but that would lead me. Oh, there's the chapter 1 hints. And that one, I guess, is a hint for the thing. And then we go into the next chapter. All right, welcome to the non-spoiler impressions part of the video. I am going to kind of flip through the first couple of pages, but I won't go beyond the first puzzle. So what are my initial impressions? First of all, the story. Not a lot has happened yet, so it's hard for me to say exactly how exciting it will be, but I think the writing is quite well done. The imagery is lovely, and there's certainly a lot of mystery going on so far, so I'm curious to see where it goes. But yeah, without playing more, I can't say exactly how well it will land. But hey, it's Post Curious. Their stories tend to have great endings, and The Light in the Mist, I thought, had a solid ending. Maybe not as amazing as Emerald Echoes, but very, very good. The art so far is varied and quite lovely, although the styles are quite different. I'm sure that might bother some people. Like here, you've got this beautiful hand-drawn thing. This appears to be a photograph, and it seems to be like a more modern kind of object. But then you're kind of back to the more hand-drawn art for this. But yeah, I think it's a very beautiful product so far. The art and such are gorgeous. Now, how about the puzzles and the structure of the game? And this is, again, I'm not going to go into spoilers. I'm not going to show any other pages. But basically, from this first chapter, the general idea, as far as I can glean, is that each page is going to have a riddle, and it will usually be used on the next page. I won't go into any details if you didn't watch the previous part of the video, but if you did, you'll know what I mean. Sometimes the logical connection between the previous page's puzzle and the next puzzle is kind of tenuous. Sometimes it is 100% necessary. Like you can't solve the next puzzle without the first puzzle. I mean, here, this is not really giving anything away. Once you solve this little letter code, then you'll be able to decipher something else. But there were a couple of puzzles in this first chapter where the fact that I had solved one puzzle kind of meant nothing, and one of the pages barely felt like there was a puzzle there at all. So just a minor complaint. Not all the things are as necessary and interlocking in this first chapter as they could be, but it all resolved well, and the final answer I got in the final riddle was an interesting thing, so I liked all of that. This first chapter did also use a little manipulative from the satchel, and that worked out fine. It wasn't the most amazing riddle of that first chapter, but it was pretty cool. And by the way, I just skimmed through for my own curiosity. It looks like there's 18 chapters or 19 chapters. Some of them might be longer than this one. Some of them might be shorter. But since that, including off-camera time, took me about 20 to 30 minutes, I don't know, let's estimate like 9 hours maybe, which I think is kind of comparable to The Light in the Mist. So this seems, on first blush, again without having played through all of it, to be more in line with the value judgment of Light in the Mist, which was a smaller form factor. This one's just a book. Light in the Mist was a small box, but had a ton of content, where often the Post-Curious games will be like 5 to 10 hours, so maybe kind of a comparable time, but they'll be a lot bigger with like tons of manipulatives and like boxes and crazy stuff in there, so the price is quite a bit higher. I'm not sure how much this one will be, but I assume it'll be lower than many of the Post-Curious releases. But yeah, so far, I think my wife will enjoy this. I want to play it more. I am a little bit, so let's talk a bit more about the puzzles. Again, like there's kind of a tenuous connection between at least some of the ones in this first chapter. And I did try out the hint system to see how that works. And first of all, it's very hard to read in this prototype version. I'm not going to like show anything, but even off camera with my eyes like right in front of the words, it was a little bit hard to tell what it was saying sometimes, but the hints were fine. They did the job. They gave me like one or two things, and then they gave me the answer to the page before going on to the next one. Now, I will say, just my personal preference, I actually prefer the online implementation that other Post-Curious games have, because not really in chapter 1, but a little bit, there were times when I was playing through that where I wasn't sure if I had like gotten the page right before I went on to the next page. There's no like confirmation. There's not like turn to page 30 to see. I mean, I guess you could go through the hints and double check. But yeah, in the Post-Curious online implementations, besides the hints being more diverse and giving you more hints per step, they also generally have a little thing where it's like, type in the word. Yep, that's the right word. So I didn't quite have the hand-holding confirmation here. Although, again, I could just go through the hint system and get the exact same thing, I suppose. But I know some people are going to adore that you don't need online functionality for this one. That's usually not a plus for me, but it is for a lot of people, so I respect that. So there you go. With only chapter 1 played, I think it's about as deep as I can go into this one. I don't want to share any more thoughts off the cuff and be totally wrong. Overall, it seems like it's going to be a good value. I mean, I got to see the price, but I can't imagine it's going to be like $100 for a book. So yeah, it seems like it's going to be a good value for the content you get and the time it takes to finish it. The story seems engaging. I'm very excited to see the rest. The puzzles so far are generally interesting. I'm not 100% in love with the hint system. I'm not 100% in love with the structure and how all the puzzles connect to each other, since it was a little bit tenuous in some of them. But it was still enjoyable and interesting, and I look forward to going through the rest of it when I have time with my wife. So I hope that's helpful, everybody, for making your own decisions. Go check out the crowdfunding page. It should be live today or soon. And see what you think. Thanks for watching, everybody, and a special thank you to our biggest Patreon supporters, J. William F., Steve Wren, KCW, Andrew R., and Chris C. We'll see you at the next stop.